Behind the curtain of great are the myths. Episode 12: Freedom, Desire, and the Paradox of the American Dream. Few ideas are as central to the mythology of the United States as freedom. From the nation's founding narratives to its 20th century cultural imagination, America has often presented itself as a landscape of possibility, a place where individuals might reinvent themselves, escape the constraints of the past, and build entirely new lives. In Great are the myths. This promise of freedom hovers constantly in the background of the story. Birdie arrives in America in 1948 from a Europe still haunted by war. For her, the United States initially appears as a place of brightness and expansion, a country alive with movement, music, and energy. The world she enters feels almost cinematic. Memphis, Hollywood, and New York all seem to offer versions of the same promise, that life here might be larger, freer, and more open than anything she has known before. Yet the novel also reveals that freedom in America is rarely simple. Beneath the rhetoric of possibility lies a series of contradictions that shape the experiences of nearly every character in the story. One of the most striking aspects of Birdie's relationship with the boy is how often their conversations circle around the idea of freedom. As teenagers, they dream of escape, movement, and adventure. Their imagined futures stretch across continents, skiing in the Alps, sailing the canals of Venice, traveling through Japan or Africa. These fantasies reflect a particular kind of youthful optimism. To them, the world appears open and full of possibility. At the same time, their lives quickly become entangled in structures that complicate this sense of freedom. For the boy, fame brings extraordinary opportunity, but also new forms of confinement. As his celebrity expands, the machinery surrounding him, managers, contracts, public expectations, and eventually military service, begins to limit the autonomy he once imagined. The very success that elevates him also restricts him. Birdie recognizes this paradox early on. She understands that the world around the boy is becoming increasingly orchestrated. The more visible he becomes, the less control he seems to have over his own life. Fame, which appears from the outside to be the ultimate expression of freedom, gradually reveals itself as another kind of structure. Birdie herself encounters a different version of this tension. As a young woman moving through elite social circles, she enjoys privileges that allow her to travel, study, and pursue creative interests. Yet the expectations surrounding her, marriage, social respectability, and the carefully managed roles available to women of her class create their own invisible boundaries. Throughout the novel, Birdie often senses these limits even when she cannot fully articulate them. Her reflections on society occasionally turn toward the economic and social systems that organize the world around her. She recognizes that the glamorous environments she moves through, Hollywood houses, fashionable interiors, elegant social gatherings, are not merely expressions of personal taste, but products of a broader system of wealth and consumption. This awareness introduces a subtle critique of the American dream. In its most optimistic form, the American dream promises that anyone can achieve success through talent and determination. Yet the novel quietly suggests that access to opportunity is often shaped by forces that individuals do not fully control: class structures, economic systems, and social expectations. Capitalism plays a particularly important role in this dynamic. Mid-20th century America witnessed an enormous expansion of consumer culture. Prosperity, home ownership, automobiles, fashionable clothing, and luxurious interiors became visual markers of success. The ideal American life was increasingly defined through the acquisition of objects and the cultivation of particular lifestyles. Birdie observes this transformation with a mixture of fascination and distance. She enjoys beauty, elegance, and design, yet she remains aware that these surfaces often conceal deeper realities. The world she inhabits is filled with symbols of freedom: cars, houses, travel, leisure. But many of these symbols also function as mechanisms that reinforce social hierarchies. The novel's treatment of race further complicates the mythology of American freedom. Although this dimension of the story often remains in the background, its presence is unmistakable. The Memphis of the late 1940s and 1950s exists within a segregated South, where the promises of liberty and opportunity apply unevenly across the population. The boy's musical influences emerge from traditions deeply connected to Black American culture. The sound that propels him toward global fame grows out of artistic forms developed within communities that historically experienced profound restrictions on freedom. This cultural exchange, so central to the birth of rock and roll, quietly exposes one of the paradoxes of American modernity. The nation celebrates cultural creativity even while maintaining systems of social exclusion. Birdie senses these contradictions, even if she does not always confront them directly. The world she inhabits allows her to move with relative ease between different spaces: Southern society, Hollywood glamour, East Coast intellectual circles, but she remains aware that this mobility is not universally available. The novel also places the idea of freedom within the context of personal identity. Both Birdie and the boy wrestle with the tension between independence and attachment. Their bond represents a form of emotional freedom, a space where they can imagine lives unconstrained by social expectations. Yet their individual paths gradually diverge as each becomes embedded in different structures: marriage, fame, family, and public life. The desert scenes near the end of the novel capture this complexity with particular clarity. In the vast openness of the landscape, Birdie and the boy experience a fleeting sense of liberation. Removed from the noise of their respective worlds, they briefly recover the imaginative freedom that first connected them. Yet even in this environment, they recognize that their lives are already moving in different directions. Freedom, in Great Are the Myths, therefore appears less as a permanent condition than as a momentary experience, something that emerges in flashes rather than remaining stable. It exists in conversations, shared fantasies, late-night drives, and temporary escapes from the structures that organize everyday life. At the same time, the novel never abandons the dream entirely. The characters continue to believe in the possibility of freedom, even when they recognize its limitations. Birdie's journey through motherhood, artistic aspiration, and personal reflection suggests that freedom may ultimately take forms different from those promised by cultural mythology. Rather than presenting the American dream as either purely true or entirely false, Great Are the Myths explores its contradictions with nuance. America remains a place of remarkable possibility, but that possibility is always entangled with systems that shape and sometimes constrain individual lives. In this way, the novel treats freedom not as a simple destination, but as an ongoing negotiation between desire and structure, imagination and reality, myth and lived experience. And perhaps that is the most enduring insight of all, that the dream of freedom continues to inspire people, not because it is perfectly realized, but because it remains just beyond the horizon, always inviting individuals to imagine new ways of living within the world they inherit.